Dear friends, today with us is Swami Medhananda Maharaj. Maharaj is known as Ayon Maharaj also in the Ramakrishna order. Maharaj is born and brought up in Boston, and Maharaj studied from Berkeley University, then Oxford, and from the German University. So Maharaj, after having such a hectic life in the Western countries and all the prestigious university, what made you to give up, renounce the world, and join the Ramakrishna order and become a monk?
So, yes, I was born and raised in the US, and I saw that most people are chasing after either money or sense pleasures or name and fame. And the people who did that, ultimately, I asked myself, did they find what they were looking for? Did they find fulfillment in their lives? Were they truly happy? And again, I found that the answer to these questions is no. That a life based on enjoyment or on success in some worldly sense, that doesn't lead to a fulfilling life, and it doesn't lead to contentment in life. So that insight was is what set me on the search for some higher goal in life. And at the same time, in my late teens, when I was 19, I started studying different religious scriptures in the world. So I started reading the Bible, I started reading the Bhagavad Gita, I read the Dhammapada in the Buddhist tradition, and some other texts, spiritual texts. And then I was thinking deeply about, there's something about, religious life is, if you lead your life on a spiritual basis, you will ultimately find something much more fulfilling than you would otherwise, than just leading an ordinary worldly life. But then the next question is, which religion should I accept? Because there's so many religions in the world. And just because I was raised Hindu does not mean that I would accept Hinduism. So then I was faced with another question: why should I accept Hinduism in particular? And ultimately what I found, I discovered the texts of the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda. And when I started thinking more about their life and teachings, what I found is that they give a basis for understanding the unity of all the different world religions. And that's something that really strongly attracted me to the Ramakrishna-Vivekananda tradition in particular. That if I follow the spiritual path of Sri Ramakrishna, I can realize the truth and value of all the different world religions. That all the different world religions are different paths leading to the same goal. That's something that was very important for drawing me toward this particular spiritual tradition.
So I've seen your many lectures are also on this topic.
Yeah.
So, Maharaj, there is a one thing you have told us before that is spiritual fulfillment. What is this fulfillment? Because those who are materialistic person, they also have some fulfillment. So how come this fulfillment is different from that?
Yeah, so I would say that there's a difference between happiness and contentment. Happiness is something that usually it's momentary. I'm happy because of X, Y, and Z. Contentment, fulfillment, these are things that are not circumstantial. They don't depend on external circumstances being a certain way in order to be happy. In order for me to be happy, I have to make a certain amount of money. In order to be happy, I need to have these kinds of relationships, etc., etc. With fulfillment or happiness, no matter what's happening on the outside, there's something from the inside. That there's a kind of inner peace, an inner contentment. And that comes from, so there's a famous Sanskrit verse from the Vairagya Shataka. Satu bhavati daridro yasya trishna vishala manasi cha paritushte korthavan ko daridra. That person is poor whose desires are great. It's a very profound statement. And that person who does not have any desires, he is the richest person in the world, in this higher sense. So that's the idea, that even if we have all the money in the world and all the sense pleasures, what happens is the more we indulge, the more our desires multiply. And those desires are what make us unhappy. So that the secret to fulfillment and contentment is reduction of desires, actually, is to reduce the number of our desires. That's the secret, actually, that it takes people many years, and it took me a long time to understand. But once I realized that, then I realized that the best path in life is renunciation. Renouncing desires is the path to ultimate fulfillment and contentment.
Ajahn Maharaj, you were talking about your path in the Ramakrishna order. Please throw light over there because I've cutted you in between.
So where was I? So yeah, so I studied different religious scriptures, and then I read the complete works of Swami Vivekananda when I was doing my Ph.D. in the US. And I also started studying the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So after reading all these things, and even before reading, I have to say actually, from a younger age, so from my late teens, even before I had read even one word of Sri Ramakrishna or Swami Vivekananda, I had this some kind of inner sense that I can only find fulfillment in life through renunciation of ordinary worldly pleasure. This is a conviction I had from a fairly young age. And I can say that conviction crystallized. It became clear to me and stronger to me after studying the life and teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji. But I had that intuition from an earlier time. And then I finished my PhD in 2009. And my parents were living in Southern California at the time, so I visited them. And I already decided that I would be a monk in India. That was another idea. I just had an idea from a young age that if I were to be a monk, I had to be a monk in India. And so I purchased a one-way ticket to India, and I told my parents didn't believe me that I wanted to be a monk until I purchased the ticket. Then they realized, oh boy, he's serious, you know. So I showed them the one-way ticket. Then they started arguing with me and saying, "What are you doing? You just got your PhD. You're throwing your life away." All the things that Bengali parents say normally. And but I was very stubborn. I said, no, this is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And we have a Vedanta Society of Southern California in Hollywood. And I thought before I come to India, let me pay my respects to, there's a senior Swami there, Swami Swahanandaji, he's the head. I'd never met him. But let me meet him and then get his blessings and then go to India. So I went to Hollywood, the Hollywood Ashrama one day, and I met him, and he asked me about my background. So I told him my background, and within a couple minutes, he heard what I said, and I told him I want to go to India and become a monk. And on his own accord, he said, I want to give you Diksha, spiritual initiation.
Okay.
And it was very surprising because I wasn't planning on getting Diksha from him. I was thinking of getting Diksha in India, in Belur Math.
Okay.
But
so
after,
very decided.
Yeah, he had told me, he said I want to give you Diksha. And after a few days, I thought about it and then I agreed. And so I received spiritual initiation from revered Swami Swahanandaji Maharaj. He's a disciple of Vijnanandaji Maharaj, who was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. And one thing that's nice about getting Diksha in the West is that usually it's one-on-one. In India, it's a group affair. It's like 50, 100 people at once. There, it was just him in his own bedroom giving me initiation. So it was a very holy experience and
personal and too.
And I had the hubris to ask him if he could give me Diksha on my birthday. My birthday was coming up. So he agreed and he gave me initiation on my birthday. So it's a kind of new birth for me. August 24th, 2009 is when I received my spiritual initiation from him. So I won't forget that. And then I received his blessings, and he wrote a letter to all Swamis in India. Please allow Brahmachari Ayon to remain in your ashrama for up to 3 nights. Because I told him I want to go on a 6-month pilgrimage.
Okay.
And get a sense of the spiritual heritage of India before joining in any particular ashrama. And he gave me his blessings, gave me that letter, and I carried that letter with me to different ashramas. So I stayed for 3 weeks even outside ashramas, outside Ramakrishna Mission. I stayed in the Divine Life Society in Rishikesh for 3 weeks. They were very kind. I showed that letter. And he had such a reputation, Swahanandaji, that they allowed me to stay. They welcomed me everywhere. And I went to Kankal, I went to Kanyakumari, Sringeri, Tiruvannamalai, so many different places.
God, you explored all.
Yeah, by train, not by plane, because I wanted to really
experience it.
Yeah, and sort of like. Really
so Maharaj, it's a AC class you took or like a sleeper class train?
I don't remember, but it was very simple. I really went in the extreme direction of just relying on God and doing a very sort of adventurous sort of pilgrimage before joining. And so I did that. 6 months I stayed in many different ashramas and met many different sadhus. And then I decided finally in 2010, just before I turned 30, that I would join in Belur Math at Vivekananda University. It was a new university at that time. And I joined there, and by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, I was able to serve the order as basically a scholar of Indian and comparative philosophy. So I was doing scholarly work on our tradition, our spiritual tradition, on Ramakrishna-Vivekananda Vedānta. And I wrote articles and books, and I'm still writing articles and books along
You
these
did
lines.
paper presentation in the Broad Principle University, I have seen.
And which one? Which university?
One of the paper you were on the comparative study of Ramakrishna. You have I presented in the Princeton.
Princeton.
Princeton University.
Yeah,
Yes,
in the
yes.
US, and then I've been invited to go to Oxford University in June. I'll be giving a lecture there on Swamiji's ideas. So yeah, in many different universities, and it's been really wonderful that I've been able to, by the grace of Ramakrishna, integrate my academic work into my spiritual life and treat my academic work as a kind of sadhana.
So yours is quite scientific presentation. I have seen Maharaj in your lectures. So Maharaj, I just want to ask you something. How becoming monks help you in your, I will say professional as a, since you have studied philosophy. So I can say in philosophy now when you present the paper, how does as a monk it's changed your, approach towards your work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one thing I found when I was doing my Ph.D, I met a lot of world-famous scholars because I studied at some of the best universities in the world. And what I found is that they can be very brilliant people, but they don't necessarily lead the best lives. And that there's a difference between being a great intellectual and being a great person. Sri Ramakrishna would often teach, he said that Pandits can be like vultures who are soaring very high in the sky, but their sights are set on the carcasses on the ground. And I found that, and that affected me very deeply. And that's part of the reason why I became a monk, because I could continue to do my academic work, my intellectual work, but do it on a spiritual basis. That was my hope, and that's what I'm still trying to do. Of course, that doesn't happen overnight, but it's something I'm trying to do. So what that means concretely is do the same academic work, but do it without the ego, because the great danger in academic work, and it's true in all fields of endeavor of work, is ego. The more ego there is in the work, the less fulfilling that work will be, and the more frustrated you'll be, the less happy you'll be. So the secret is, in any work that you do, whether it's academic work or whatever you're doing, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer, try to take the ego out of the work and do the work as a service to God, or if you don't believe in God, or if you're a Buddhist or something like that, but do it in a selfless way. Take that little I out of work.
Does it make feel one light or make feel one more productive?
Both. I mean, it's because you're more that you've removed that burden of ego that you're able to be more productive in your work. And I found that myself, and that some of my colleagues in different universities, very well-known universities, they're amazed at how productive I've been, even though I'm full-time. I'm a full-time monk, and at the same time I do academic work, but I'm often publishing more than they are. And that productivity comes from, at least in part, from a certain sense of that I'm working not for myself and for self-aggrandizement. I'm not making a salary. I'm also not, I'm not trying to advance my career in the way that many professors try to do, right? I don't have a career in that sense. But for those reasons, it's very freeing not to have those ambitions.
Those are slacks, you can say. Like it's like a bondage. Those desires are bondages,
Yeah,
you can say.
yeah. They're traps in a sense, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. Anything would you like to share with us?
No, that was great. Thank you for those interesting questions.
Thank you, Maharaj. It's a wonderful conversation with you. Madhvi Shri, this side from RIMSE, Ramakrishna Vidyashala, Mysore.